Hello, today we're going to talk about graphing quadratics and absolute value functions when they're in the form that looks like this. Okay, it's really the same thing, so I'm going to teach both lessons at the same time. These shifts, these are horizontal shifts in the graph, and these are vertical shifts in the graph, the k value. Okay, and notice that inside the function is minus, so we got to do some thinking before we decide how we're moving the parabola or the V-shaped graph when we graph these. So these are actually easier when they're in this form because it's very easy to find the vertex, and then we can use what we know about the A value to find a few more points to make the graph. All right. So I think it's important that you probably pause this video right now and write these two forms down. Okay. All right. So if we think about f of x equals x squared, all right, what happens when we, add 3 outside of the squared? And if you remember from earlier this year or even what you guys did last year, that this becomes a vertical shift up. So what you see is what you get. It's positive 3 outside of the x squared, and that means a vertical shift up. And the same thing happens here. This minus 2, what you see is what you get. It's a negative 2, so it's a vertical shift down. So we're moving the parabola up 3 or we're moving it down 2 in this situation. All right. So if it were me, I would write this down and tell, maybe circle the plus 3 and say this is a vertical shift up. And the same thing here, circle the minus 2 and tell me that this is a vertical shift down. All right. Now, same thing. If we're thinking about our parent quadratic function x squared, if I give you a problem where now the plus 2 is inside the squared, so it's inside the parentheses, all right, this is actually a horizontal shift to the left, so backwards, all right, because remember the original formula is x minus h, all right, but this ends up being plus 2, so that really means that this 2 is negative, all right, so we actually move the parabola back 2, and then in this case, the x minus 3, this is actually a forward or to the right shift 3. So when you're inside the parentheses, inside the square, it's a horizontal shift. When you're outside, like the last side, it's a vertical shift. Okay? So it's very important that you get these notes down on your paper so that you can compare them. All right? Now we're going to try a few. All right? And this is going to go back to that lesson where we taught you how to graph parabolas with the shortcut, using the shortcut. Okay, where we found the vertex and then said, well, if we move over 1, 1 squared is 1, and we go up 1. We moved over 2, 2 squared is 4, we go up 4, and then we'd make our parabola. Okay, so we're going to try that using these rules, all right, horizontal shift and vertical shift, okay, with these problems. So, I forgot I have this point. So remember that the quadratic function written in this form has a vertex of h. Remember, this is minus, so it is h, forward shift, and k. So we're going to practice that. All right. The value of a will determine whether the parabola opens up or down, or whether it's skinny or narrow or wide. All right. We've talked about that in the past too. So when it's written in this form, it's just easier to find the vertex. Instead of doing the negative b over 2a, we're going to have the vertex right away. All right. And then all of these rules are the exact same when I get rid of this 2 and just make absolute value symbols. It's still horizontal shift, vertical shift. You graph it the same way, except instead of being a curved line like a parabola, it's more of a V with straight lines. Okay, and that A value is essentially the slope of those sides on an absolute value. All right, so let's try this one. X minus 3 squared plus 2. All right, so what I'm going to do is, this is going to get a little ugly with I should make that black too, with me using the mouse, but we'll be okay. Ugh. And all right, so there's my axis. Now, again, this is a horizontal shift, and when you're inside, it's the opposite. So it says minus 3, but that just means that my vertex is actually going to be forward 3. 1, 2, 3. And then outside of the squared is our vertical shift up 2. So I can say forward 3, up 2. And there is my vertex. This opens up because it's positive. Okay, there's no negative out in front. And essentially, for lack of a better term right now, the slope, or how we're curving upward, is just normal. It's 1. So that means 1 squared is 1, so put a dot there. 2 squared, 1, 2, is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, just enough room. And then I mirror those over here. And there's my parabola. Missed that one, but that's okay. So that is how we graph these parabolas. So again, we're going to find that vertex, and we're going to use our trick. 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, and if there was an a value here, let's say this a value was 2, okay, you could say 1 squared is 1, and 1 times 2 is 2, and you put your dot there. And then 2 squared is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8, and you put your other dot up here, and it'd just be a little steeper, okay? All right, now let me erase the old marks, okay, and start another one. So this is an absolute value, okay? And just remember that this is just a V shape instead of a parabola, a curved line. It's two kind of straight lines, all right? So again, in this case, this is our horizontal shift, and it happens to be back 4. Remember, the original equation is x minus h. So this is plus, so that means this 4 had to be negative, okay? So back 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, down 1, there's my vertex. So again, this is my vertical shift, and what you see is what you get when you're outside the operation, okay? Now, it has a slope of 2, so this is our linear part, so that essentially means up 2 over 1, I'm going to get a couple points, up 2 over 1. And then on the other side of our V, we're going to do the same thing, but with a negative slope. So up 2, back 1, up 2, back 1, and then, oh, that's supposed to be a straight line, sorry. Oh, mouse is hard. Okay, maybe if I go down, it'll be a little easier. Yep, okay. So, that is how we're going to graph our absolute value, okay? Remember, this number essentially is our slope, so if you follow the dots and not necessarily the line I tried to draw, we'd be here, and here, and we can do the same thing. Up 2, back 1, up 2, back 1, up 2, back 1, up 2, back 1, and just those are the lines you'd be connecting on your paper. All right. So the key to this lesson is remembering how we use the shortcuts to graph these. All right, and then it's giving us the vertex when it's in this form. Inside the function, so inside the squared is the opposite, horizontal shift opposite, -3 was actually forward 3. And then outside, what you see is what you get. That's our vertical shift. This is up 2. This is down 1. All right. I hope this video helps, and I will see you guys next time.